Hello and welcome to Only Stupid Answers. My name is Sam Basher.
And I'm DJ Wooldridge.
And today we're doing our formal review for the first edition, Introduction to the Valiant Cinematic Universe, Bloodspot.
Well,
Bloodshot.
Remind me to revisit the Valiant Cinematic Universe later, because it is weirdly more complicated than you'd think.
It's got a rich history.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and kick it off with the business up top.
Yes.
Of course, Bloodshot is hitting theaters in the U.S. on March 13th, 2020. And a quickie synopsis for, if you didn't get it from the trailer, Ray Garrison, a slain soldier, is reanimated with superpowers.
Oh, snap.
IMDb coming in with the softballs. Just kind of bunting it. Not trying too hard. This, of course, stars Vin Diesel,
Yes.
Eiza Gonzalez,
Yes.
Guy Pearce, Lamorne Morris, as well as Sam
Heughan.
Thank you
and
so much.
Talulah Riley.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the whole gang's coming together to bring Valiant Comics. We got Marvel, we got DC Image. They got nothing going on. They can't really do what Marvel and DC have done, but Valiant, they've got a shot.
Yeah.
And their shot is this movie.
Is Bloodshot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So let's just hop into it. Were you excited about this movie when you heard about it? Are you familiar with Bloodshot or the Valiant characters?
Both. Yeah, I'm familiar with Valiant and I'm familiar with Bloodshot, and I like the idea of trying to do something different than the other cinematic universes, because Valiant, for those that don't know, was introduced in the 90s comic boom, and then it kind of went away for a while and was recently revamped, retooled, re-released in 2012. And they kind of did what Ultimate Marvel Comics did, where it was like a limited line with a tight handle on the continuity and the types of stories they were telling to make sure each one was kind of different. And it was a smart, interesting way to do a comic line. And if you were to try to define like what differentiated Valiant from the other ones, it feels a little less superhero-y and a little bit more hard-edged. Makes it sound like, ooh, yeah, edgy, but it's like, Exo Manowar has space armor, but he's like a Viking warrior from history. Bloodshot is a soldier. Ninja K is a spy. Like, it's all like kind of more militaristic stuff like that. And then you've got other characters like Archer and Armstrong that are more fun and freewheeling.
Quantum and Woody,
similar in the Archer and Armstrong vein of like more just having a comedy series more than like anything else.
I've never read Bloodshot.
Yeah.
I've read a few Valiant books, and there are some that the ones that have been recommended or I've picked up, I've enjoyed a lot.
Yes.
So the idea of bringing the Valiant characters into a cinematic universe sounds interesting. Quantum and Woody is a pretty fun idea for, I'd say, a series, but also could work in a movie pretty well.
Yeah.
And who's their team? They have a team. They have their Avengers. There's
It's like Unity or
yeah.
something.
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
it is. There you
Yeah.
go. Bing, bang, bong. But yes, Bloodshot, you couldn't get based on the name of the character. He is very 90s, like you said.
Yes.
So I was looking forward to that manic pouches and guns energy of the 90s going into Bloodshot. And being honest, none of the trailers really did anything for me, but I like Vin Diesel enough from the Fast and Furious franchise and basically anything else he does. Like I'm not running. I did not watch the newest one.
No.
And that's why we don't have a connected universe with Fast and Furious and Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Could have happened. But the trailers, while they didn't do much for me, I was still excited to see what they could possibly do with this, because there's a fun nod to like Memento as well as kind of like Ready Player One.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before we watched the movie last night at the premiere, thank you, Sony, for the invite. That was very nice of you. That Bloodshot is basically a hybrid of Wolverine and Punisher.
Yeah, because he's a super soldier, so he's a gun boy, and of course he's got a dark and tragic past. But the nanites in his bloodstream allow him essentially heightened healing abilities like Wolverine, and especially since he was created in the 90s, it felt like, but what if? What if Punisher had Wolverine's healing powers? You're like, actually, that sounds like a nightmare. Like, if that person exists in the real world, that sounds like really scary. But sure, you know what I mean.
And so.
But also, he looks like the Japanese flag for some reason.
Yeah, no, we didn't really get into. In the movie, they actually explained it a little differently,
Yes.
and it
it's
behaves
for the
differently.
best.
Yeah, and that was a pretty smart move. But overall, for me, this movie didn't quite do it for me. There are some elements that are enjoyable, but overall, I felt like the execution of the story they were trying to tell was kind of subpar, and I wouldn't even really care about the story, because we were talking before we started recording. I'm like, can you tell me what the hacker was doing? Charlize Theron's character was doing in Fate of the Furious.
Zombie cars.
Oh, yeah, that was that one. Exactly. That's the point. He's The Rock curls a missile. That's that one, right? Exactly. See, it doesn't matter. It's just I'm remembering the action, the points of action, not what the story was. Yeah. So I don't think being too critical of the story is all that important as long as the action's able to hold up. And the way that the action is captured within this film, I felt was subpar. Not that, of course, like there are some scenes where it's like, oh, this is beautiful, and like it's everything felt thought out as long in terms of choreography. But the way that it was captured via like handheld shaky cam, as well as questionable angles of like, why are we looking at this part of the action when
there is no line
there? Like, what if we just like you mentioned last night, but it would have helped a lot if you scooted like 4 feet back from all the action, or just zoomed out just a tiny bit. You would have caught a lot more of what was happening. So it was really hard. Like, we weren't even that close to the screen, but it was really hard to follow from beat to beat what was exactly happening and what Vin Diesel was doing to kill all these people. But and so that's it. By the end of it, like, I have a few scenes that like stick out, but it's just not that memorable of a movie. Yeah. And also, this doesn't matter as well because I'm going in with a Fast and Furious mentality. Like, I don't really care about anybody in the movie whatsoever. Like, even the like comedic characters or the ones that have like a little bit of heart. Like, I think Eiza Gonzalez does the best in terms of acting and story for herself, because Vin Diesel's being reset over and over again. So his personality is just kind of like, them killing. He's got revenge on the brain.
And there's some interesting narrative decisions in that the kind of the reveal with Vincent Diesel's character. That is not only explained in the trailer pretty succinctly, is explained at least 3 times in the movie, none of those times add more information. I think Vin Diesel does a good job in this type of movie because he can't act. You know what I mean? Like, he's got the Vin Diesel role, but like he's a talented performer, especially in roles like this. But it's interesting, the history of this movie, because originally Jeff Wadlow from Kick-Ass 2, famed from Kick-Ass 2, was supposed to be the one making it. And then after him, it was Chad Stahelski and David Leitch from John Wick fame.
Which sounds pretty cool.
Jeff Wadlow still, and I'm assuming Matthew Vaughn is a producer on this. I'm assuming it's from that iteration as well, because them's boys. They both still get credits on this movie. Jared Leto was originally supposed to be Bloodshot. At one point. And the one thing I thought was interesting is the whole this whole enterprise was thought of as like creating a Valiant universe, right? Well, just a couple of years ago, Paramount swooped in and bought, actually just in 2019, swooped in and bought all of the other Valiant characters other than Bloodshot.
So Sony's doing another thing where it's not Sony's not doing another thing, but it's another situation.
Yeah, where Sony's got one of the boys, because originally it was
one of the biggest boys for that comic company.
Because it originally was supposed to be Bloodshot, the Harbinger characters, and then they cross over for Harbinger War, which was a crossover in the comic. And now Harbinger, all that creative team is now over at Paramount and is unrelated to this. And the people at Valiant are like, don't worry, it's not as big a deal as like Spider-Man being with Sony. It's like, I mean, Bloodshot's like one of
the guys.
Yeah, it's like Exo Manowar and Bloodshot are the ones that are like Ninja K maybe, or Ninjak, from the
Whoever
90s.
You like to call
him. I go with Ninja K because it sounds cooler. So it's just one of those that like I don't know.
It's a little messy.
Yeah, it's a little messy, and this movie is messy. This movie feels like a bunch of competing ideas and competing intents. And I'll say for me, it was fine, and then they introduced the comic relief character, and immediately the movie started nosedive for me, because he is every comedic character tick into one character, and it's just a lot. It's just, and it's not specific. It's not specifically him, but for me, that was his introduction was the clear turning point for the rest of my investment in the rest of the movie.
It's Lamorne Morris from New Girl, and he also was in Game Night. I'm a big fan, but yeah, his character in this movie, you get the role, you understand what it is.
He's T.J. Miller in Deadpool, but like a lot more.
Yeah, like talking a lot, an American
without
actor.
the baggage of T.J. Miller. That's the plus side.
There you go. But he does have. He's putting on a British accent.
Yes,
he does not have one. Unless he in every interview and every other movie and TV show he's ever done, he's been hiding it. No, he is putting on a fake one.
No, he's an American actor.
Yeah, no, he's rough. I will say, and I don't know if these are specifically from the comics in the way that it was brought to life, but the other bionic villains in this movie look really cool.
Yes, and there's interesting ideas behind them that I wish they could have explored more. We talked a little bit about when we left. It's like, what do you want to bet? Because a big deal was made that this was this director's first time movie, and when it comes to larger studio movies, usually it's not like they're not picking indie directors because indie directors have directed something before. It's somebody within the field, and my guess was effects person. And it's not that. It was video game cutscene director person who's also from Blur Studios, who the director of the first Deadpool movie is also from Blur Studios. And because there was definitely some like a lot of investment in there's one specific scene where Vin Diesel and Guy Pearce are in like a mind space where you could tell a lot of time and energy was invested in this one CG scene. And then when you get to the finale, you're like, you should have saved that money for the finale.
Because I think it's you're seeing the reality being torn down around Bloodshot because you're like, okay, nothing about what you know or see is real, and I have control over that.
It's definitely something a CG guy was like, this is going to look so cool.
Exactly, but it goes on longer than you'd think.
Yeah.
It's way longer. It's like the behind the scenes VFX breakdowns you see for like Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't know if you saw that, but they like broke down like the different elements of like, these are the fires, this is the drones, this is the da-da-da. And like they do that to him, and you're like, but you see every element, like this is the basket in the boat over 20 miles away. And it's like, yeah, we got it. Like these are the textures we put on the water. Like we got it. We don't need to see the DLC pack or whatever. When we get to the final fight scene, I don't know about you guys. I will cop to that when it comes to VFX, that's a blind spot for me. I do know that usually you'll see in like TV productions, whenever they do VFX heavy shots, it's probably during nighttime because you can hide a lot of things. This movie decided like, okay, we're going to shoot it in a glass elevator shaft with the sun pointed directly at it, so everyone's got these harsh silhouettes.
They're a little gummy.
They're a little you can see the gumminess of all the characters, even like the metal parts of them, which is disappointing. But I did want to say, when it comes to their side characters, the one that they do explore the most is there's a character that has multiple cameras all over him, so he can create a 360 view of his world. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. I've never thought of that before. He throws drones up and he's able to see that, and he's able to map out the world around him. But he then is not utilized more, that he is just the tactic. He's just eyes in the sky, which is disappointing. And when it comes to the rest of the world, we don't really learn more about why we're doing this.
Yeah, why does the company that made Bloodshot exist? What is their... I mean, it's classic like villain, like, we'll do the money, we're trying to... But like, we don't know... there's just not enough context to make the world feel like, oh, this is a place.
By the way, a line that Guy Pearce, he plays the lead scientist who is in charge of Bloodshot. He, since we're repeating, he has to motivate Ray to go out and live his life or kill people, whatever, what have you. He always says, you get a second chance. And it's so funny because normally in movies like this where someone comes back from the dead, they're like in their 20s or 30s, and Vin Diesel's in his 50s. And it's like, there's nobody else that you can scoop up. Like, he's been doing this for a while. But like 50? No offense. No, not trying to be ageist, but he's got... I feel like you could have grabbed like a younger buck.
Yeah, and this is probably like... Tom Cruise's The Mummy rules were like, so
funny.
You young man.
You whippersnappers running around, breaking ancient burial grounds open.
So it's in the movie, Vin Diesel's probably supposed to be like 32 or something.
Yeah.
His love interest is that age. And it's also the tagline for the movie is like, you don't need a past to have a future, which is said in the movie. Yeah, it is in the movie. It is a line that is said in the movie.
By the way, you will have a giggle when we get into our final boss battle. All our cybernetic guys get like all these extra limbs and stuff, so they're gonna go and like kill Bloodshot. And Vin Diesel just walks down the hallway just like this. He's like in a regular t-shirt and jeans, and he's just like, it has the most manic drug fueled, like Red Bull fueled 90s energy. That's what his whole character is.
Honestly, this feels less, even though a lot of the story elements are from the 2012 relaunch of Valiant, the energy is adapting a 90s character. So it reminded me a lot of Venom without Tom Hardy's like bug nuts going for it. is like him really going for it in the role, like without that energy to like anchor, like, hey, listen, Tom Hardy's having enough fun that I'm having fun too. It doesn't have that, and it could have used it. I guess Lamorne Morris is really trying. He's
trying his best.
Yeah. So it's not. What would you rate this movie?
I think out of 10, I'd have to give it like a 5 or a 6. So like a 5.5. How about this?
What out of since this has 90s energy, out of 90?
Easier. I'd give it like a 55. Yeah. 55 out of 90. I feel like because it's just.
Was that low C?
Oh no, that's like no.
That's a high D.
That's. I don't think that's. It might have a little tomato on Rotten Tomatoes, which it does not have a score right now, and there is no post-credit scene. So there you guys go. Yeah. You learned that way into the video.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome. It's got a lot of elements that could work, but don't in the way that this movie was assembled, or the way it was captured, or whatever. I think there are ways to use this character, even Vin Diesel's interpretation of the character, as well as the actors that are in this movie. But the way that it all comes together, it feels like you're kind of just like being hit with like a wave, like none of it's like, or being hit with wind. It's like, I'm experiencing something, but it doesn't mean anything because it feels, I don't know. The movie feels like it doesn't even care about itself as you're kind of moving through it, which is a bummer. Like, it's like we're doing this big chase scene where these cybernetic guys are going after Bloodshot, but it's like, doesn't matter because like maybe it's because like we can just like throw nukes at this guy and he just keeps coming back and so does everybody else. So like, does any of this matter at all?
It feels like, I don't know if you had this experience when you were a kid, but when you would see something as a teenager, like 13 or 15, you're like, wow, it would be cool if this got like a really cool sequel. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you kind of feel like you enjoy it in that you hope that the sequel's like better. It is not
see the potential.
Yeah. You're like, oh man, maybe if they do a sequel, maybe all the cool things and not all the boring things.
Yeah, it's a bummer that it turned out that way because there isn't as much action as you'd think from a movie with this title.
Yes, and Vin Diesel.
And when you get the action, it's not in a way that's truly like visible.
Yeah. So
save for a few shots.
If we're going with the 90, I would give it
even 90.
An even 90. What would be like a low C?
I'd say probably in the 60s, probably or maybe 70s. You can do 70s.
You know, I'm going to do.
We are
65.
the math majors here.
Yeah. I am going to do a 65. I was disappointed with this. And like you said, I think Vin Diesel as Bloodshot could really work. And I guess the little 13-year-old in me is like, I do hope there's a cooler sequel. You know what I mean? Because there are enough here. This feels like a knockoff Neil Blomkamp movie. Yeah,
It's got a lot of that cybernetic energy.
What if like District 9, but like less cool? You know what I mean? Anyway. Elysium, but less cool. Like, oof.
Actually, with the way that technology rebuilds people's faces after they get blown off, like there's some of that energy here. And I will say, whenever a piece of him gets blown off and it rebuilds,
it's cool.
Clearly, all the money went to that stuff because it needs to, because that's his thing. You need it to look cool, so it does look cool. So there's that positive. But when if you've got an angsty 13-year-old nephew and you're like, well, how do I get him to be happy and not depressed on the internet? It's like, well, take him to see Bloodshot.
Yeah, there you go.
Or like there's other movies, but like if you want him to like,
Invisible Man's out still.
Onward. We have reviews for those. Go check those out. But I did appreciate Sony inviting us out. Thank you for that. We had an amazing time. It was very cool to meet everyone that we were able to. And we appreciate when we're able to do that. But we hope you guys enjoy it most of all. So please check out patreon.com/onlystupidanswers because we do weekly reviews of things that you guys vote on. So go over there. You can vote. You can leave suggestions. And I want to get you guys involved in the conversation. Also follow us on Twitter at Sam Basher.
At DJ Talks Trash.
At Only Stupid Answers.
You got the bells from Stupid.
Like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you can stay up to date whenever new reviews drop. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.